Welcome to the Capitol News. I am your host, Alex Koritis. Today is December 18th, 2019. Thank you so much for joining me. Title of today's podcast, 45 Impeached. Today is one for the history books, folks. For the third time in the history of our republic, that is the United States of America, a president of the United States has been impeached by the House of Representatives. This is a sad day in our republic, but we saw this coming. This should not be a surprise to anybody. This will now move to the Senate. We don't know exactly when. There's some politicking taking place right now as to when the articles of impeachment might actually be moved to the Senate, and then the Senate can pick up the trial aspect of this entire impeachment process. Recall there are two articles that were levied against President Donald J. Trump, the first one being an abuse of power, voted in the affirmative. The second being an obstruction of Congress, also voted in the affirmative. So both charges levied against Donald Trump were passed by the House, pretty much down party lines, which was also expected. There were a couple Democrats who did not vote for impeachment. All Republicans voted on behalf of the President of the United States in his defense for non-impeachment. And presidential contender on the Democratic side, Tulsi Gabbard, Congresswoman from Hawaii, voted present. She voted present. So there's some analysis out there on the airwaves as to why she might have actually have done this. I think it's probably a bit ideological. It's probably a bit looking for some publicity just to get her name back out there, because obviously it's really starting to whittle down in how many Democratic contenders are there. The votes are going to be taking place early next year, so probably just trying to get her name out there as well, because the facts are the facts. We've gone through them here. I am not going to relitigate this thing in its entirety, although I am going to have to do a refresher because I think it's necessary. Look, I mean, earlier this year, impeach 45 Congresswoman Maxine Waters. I was doing that in ridicule of her. I don't like this woman. I don't like her policies. I don't like her actions. I don't like her attitude with a lot of things, okay? But unfortunately, now she got her wish. 45 has been impeached. And unfortunately, it's because the facts against the president led us to this point. This was not just some partisan hack job. This was not some partisan witch hunt. It was not. This has become an argument of process versus the facts. We've went through this. We did an entire series on this impeachment process from the very beginning, from the time that we knew there was a whistleblower, from the time those documents came out. We always reserve judgment here. I don't rush to judgment. We did not, we did not have all of the facts. And quite frankly, we still don't have all of the facts. But guess why that is, ladies and gentlemen? Because the President of the United States has not turned over documents, and he has not allowed certain fact witnesses to come forward and testify. So for all of the Republican argument that this has been a horrendous process, that this has been a partisan witch hunt by the Democrats, to argue that there have not been any fact witnesses, because remember, it's all about hearsay, it's all about presumption, then they cannot be yelling at the Democrats. And believe me, I take no pleasure in having to come to the defense of the Democrats. I don't like it at all. But the Republicans have nobody to go after except Donald Trump. If there is exculpatory evidence, if there is a witness or witnesses who can come forward and testify on behalf of Donald Trump, if not the president himself, and could exonerate him, then why would that not have been the case? Why would we continue to be pushed through this highly divisive process of impeachment? If you have exculpatory evidence release it. Should have been released months ago. The release of the transcript was not enough. It does not exonerate you, Mr. President. It is not exculpatory evidence. In fact, Donald Trump even admits to the fact that he wanted an investigation. He admits it to reporters outside of the White House. And he goes a step further. He was also calling on China to start an investigation into Joe Biden and his son, Hunter Biden. We know what the president wanted. He either wanted the announcement of an investigation by Ukraine and or China, or he actually did want, or does want, an investigation. You have to understand the difference here because it's important. Although both are still leaning that this is a highly political motive by the President of the United States. Not one about corruption, not one about truly seeking justice. It's one about politics and 2020 presidential campaign tactics. Because if he was truly concerned with corruption, if he was truly concerned with spending U.S. dollars on foreign aid, as he claims that he is, as Republicans have claimed that the president is as well, well, we know that Ukraine was and remains a corrupt nation. We know that Ukraine was a corrupt nation with a corrupt government in 2017. Aid was awarded to Ukraine. It was given. Where was the holdup? 2018, Ukraine was a corrupt government. Our Congress still appropriated military aid for Ukraine. It was not held up. 2019 rolls around. The country is still corrupt, but now you have an incoming president, President Zelensky, who became president by running on a platform of anti-corruption, of draining the swamp, if you will, Ukraine style. He is vetted throughout this entire process of his election by U.S. State Department officials, by the National Security Council, by Defense Department officials, amongst others, I'm sure. What is their analysis? What is their conclusion of Mr. Zelensky? That he's the real deal. We can work with President Zelensky if he does become President Zelensky. He did become President Zelensky. We can work with him. The United States did not wait for the election to take place to start conducting analysis on Zelensky. This was not impromptu. This was not spontaneous. They were doing their research. They were doing their homework, which is exactly what they get paid to do. That's why your taxpayer dollars go to. Political analysis, economic analysis, security analysis. This is what these professionals were doing in the State Department, the National Security Council, the Defense Department, and I am sure other agencies as well. What was their conclusion? Again, we can work with this guy. Who says otherwise? Rudy Giuliani and at least a couple of his associates. We don't know how many associates were involved with this in helping Rudy Giuliani, but we know at least two of them, Lev and Igor, have been arrested by the FBI for charges that are against them in relations to campaign finance, and we're talking a lot of money. Now, they are innocent until proven guilty, but I am just highlighting the facts of the case, the characters that the president is taking advice from. He wants to ignore the State Department. He wants to ignore the National Security Council. He wants to ignore the officials from the Defense Department. That we can continue working with Ukraine, and now we can especially work with Ukraine on a positive note because we have President Zelensky in office now. And he is a straight shooter. He means well. We can do this now. We have a true ally in the Ukrainian government at the highest level. So we have this aid. It's already been approved and appropriated through Congress. Let's give it to him. Nope, let's not give it to him. Let's not give it to him. Why? Well, 2017, they were corrupt. They got it. No hiccups. 2018, they were corrupt. They got it. No hiccups. 2019, whoa, wait a minute now. What happens to be the case here? You have an incoming president who is vetted by various U.S. agencies. We can work with this guy. He is going to fight corruption. Give him the money. Nope, not enough. Why not? Well, because Joe Biden is running for president in 2019. And we know that Ukraine really needs this money. They really need this military aid of about $400 million. I might want something from them. Maybe I can get them to look into something. Of all the corruption that exists and existed within Ukraine, of all of the companies that are corrupt within Ukraine, the only ones that come up in the conversation, that beautiful, perfect phone call on July 25th of 2019, the quasi-transcript that was released by the White House, talks about an oil and gas company, Burisma. Why Burisma? Perhaps they're associated with Joe Biden and Hunter Biden. And I am not here to excuse the actions of Joe Biden and Hunter Biden. But stay focused. We are talking about Donald Trump. You want to talk about Joe Biden and Hunter Biden? We'll do another podcast on that some other time. Not today, because that's not the case we're talking about. Stay focused. Don't look at the shiny object. Don't see the squirrel run across the street and say, oops, squirrel. Stay focused. The facts of the case are that Donald J. Trump abused his power of office. He used congressional appropriated funds as leverage over a country who was at war with Russia. Our U.S. national policy, national security policy, is one that has allied ourselves with Ukraine. Now, you can take umbrage with that. You may not like it. That's fine. But that is the consensus. It is also the consensus that Russia does not have U.S. interests at heart. I don't think that's too far of a stretch. I am all for extending an open hand to the Russian government and to be more peaceful and more, how you want to put it, in better harmony with each other, to improve relations, not just with Russia, but with many other countries around the world for the benefit of everybody. I'm very much for that. But let's stay focused and look at the facts of the case. You have to look at the fact pattern. You have to understand that on July 24th, the day before this happened, you had Bob Mueller testifying. Donald Trump is not exonerated. Attorney General Bill Barr later comes out and says, the Mueller report does not exonerate the president. What does Thunder Thumbs tweet out to everybody? I've been exonerated. The very next day, July 25th, is this perfect, beautiful phone call where he asks a foreign leader, President Zelensky, for political help. I mean, I don't know your reading comprehension, but that's what happened, folks. We took the time to read all of the documents that were the genesis of this impeachment inquiry. We looked at the whistleblower's complaint, which, by the way, proved to be accurate. I know Donald Trump wants to come out and say all the time, this is a fake whistleblower, everything they said was a lie. That's a lie. That's a lie. I read it to you. And I do that because I anticipate that Donald Trump is going to come out and either lie to you or make exaggerations or be hyperbolic or put you on a different trail, on a different path. That's why I take the time to read those types of documents. You can read them for yourself. They are available. You can go back to our podcasts. And I suggest you do if you are forgetful of the facts. Not the process, the facts. If you can't argue the law, if you can't argue the facts, you shout, you bang the table, and you scream process. That is exactly what Donald Trump is doing. That is exactly what the Republicans have been doing. You want to understand why this has been such a partisan circus? Is because the Republicans don't have a backbone to even come forward and say that what the president did on that phone call was wrong. He shouldn't have done it. I've tried to give this president a leg, 2 legs to stand on, to get this whole thing done and over with. He hasn't taken me up on it. He hasn't taken many other people up on it either. He continues to dig in, claim it's a perfect, beautiful phone call, that he did nothing wrong. And the Republicans can't even come out and say, Mr. President, you shouldn't have done that. You just spent 2 years of your presidency complaining that 2 years of your presidency have been ruined by this partisan hoax, this witch hunt from the Democrats, from Bob Mueller. By the way, Bob Mueller was appointed by the Trump Justice Department. So this is not as if this was Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer putting Bob Mueller out there. This was Trump's Justice Department, by the way. Don't forget that. That's a fact as well. Okay? The Republicans had no backbone to say you shouldn't have done it. You just went through 2 years of hell. We agree with you on that. I agree with you on that. And then what do you do the very next day? You ask a foreign leader for political involvement. Now, again, just because Joe Biden is a political contender does not exonerate him, or exempt him, I should say, from investigation or scrutiny. But guess what? 2017 comes after 2016. 2018 comes after 2016 and 2017. Why didn't Donald Trump look into Burisma then? Why did he not look into the actions of Joe Biden and Hunter Biden in 2017 or in 2018? He could have directed his attorney general to do so. Why did he wait until 2019? There's a political motive. This is called common sense. Now, the Republicans would argue that I am being presumptuous. You know what that means? That word, to presume? Because remember, that's how they attacked Ambassador Sondland, because, well, I didn't hear specifically from Donald Trump that he was holding up the military aid for an investigation. I was presuming so. Oh, you're presuming. Well, we don't give a damn about your presumptions. You know what a presumption is, folks? It's taking the facts, the evidence of something, and then using your God-given common sense to attach a high probability of what the outcome probably would be. You know who does that on a daily basis? You know who presumes on a daily basis? Juries do. Juries do. Because unless you have a signed, sealed, delivered confession of a defendant on video, on audio, committing a crime, saying, I am going to commit XYZ on XYZ date, and this is how I'm going to do it, you're going to have to make some presumptions. It's called circumstantial evidence. And then the other defense that Republicans put forward is, well, Donald Trump says the call is perfect. I didn't do anything wrong. Oh, that's simple. Hey, Judge. Hey, Your Honor. Hey, did you do it? No, I didn't. I didn't do it. You didn't do it? Case dismissed. We wouldn't have anybody in jail. Just ask the defendant. No, I didn't do it. Everything's fine. And then they point to President Zelensky. Yeah, he says everything was fine too. Of course he did. He's at war with Russia. He needs military aid. Who else is he going to get it from? Use your head. This is ridiculous. This is why I'm not a Republican. And I am no Democrat, believe me. They have no backbone. They couldn't even stand up to him. They couldn't even try to convince Donald Trump for once in his life to admit a mistake, to admit that he was wrong, to go out to the American people and to apologize for what he said on that phone call. I never should have said that. I never should have brought up Joe Biden and Hunter Biden. Never should have brought up that company in that context. Never should have done it. Shouldn't have done it, and I won't do it in the future. Nope, I double down. I triple down. It was a perfect phone call. And not one Republican comes out and says, that's not true. That was wrong. That was wrong, Mr. President. Go out there and apologize to the American people. Take credit for this mistake, and let's move on from there. Nope, can't do it. Got to double down, got to triple down. It's unbelievable. And then the Republicans want to argue that, again, we don't have any first-hand fact witnesses. Then go to Donald Trump, because he's the one that isn't releasing the documents. He's the one that's not releasing the witnesses. Cannot make this stuff up. Then, this holy crusader who's supposedly going after corruption does not mention the word corruption once with President Zelensky on either of the phone calls. And then he has an ambassador in Ukraine, Marie Yovanovitch, who is acknowledged by both Democrats and Republicans for being a woman who is tough on corruption. Oh yeah, we got to get rid of her. Why? Because Rudy Giuliani and his two associates who have been arrested by the FBI told Donald Trump, she's got to go. She's getting in our way. Oh, and she didn't hang your picture up in the Ukrainian and the U.S. Embassy in Kiev. Wow. We got to get rid of her. And then there's a smear campaign. Why do this to the woman? Why smear her? Why go through this process? Why tweet at her or to her when she's testifying before a House Congressional Committee? Why do it? He was in his rights as the President of the United States, and this was admitted even by Ambassador Yovanovitch, because this is the fact. Donald Trump could have removed her for any reason whatsoever. Why could he not have picked up the phone and said, Ambassador Yovanovitch, thank you for your service. I hear nothing but wonderful reviews about you. But guess what? I want to go in a different direction in Ukraine. So we're going to relieve you of your duty. We're going to bring you back to Washington, and then we'll find something else for you. But thank you very much. He didn't do that. He couldn't. Had to keep going after her. Had to keep attacking that woman. The woman, again, known for fighting corruption. Donald Trump is supposedly concerned with corruption, so let's get rid of her. Why? We know why. Because Rudy Giuliani tells you why. Because she was in the way. Because I'm trying to come over here and to create some sort of conspiracy, because I'm talking to all of these people in Ukraine on behalf of my client, Donald J. Trump, for God knows what reason. And that's it. I have nothing else for you because I don't know what Rudy Giuliani is doing. All I know is he's supposed to write some sort of 20-page report. You would think, with everything that he claims to have, that 20 pages wouldn't do it justice. That this thing would be a book. Somehow he's going to get all of this done in 20 pages. We'll see. I'm not holding my breath. I'm not holding my breath. Because there was nothing but opportunity for the president and his administration, if it was such a concern, to look into Burisma, to look into 2016 elections, to look into CrowdStrike, to look into DNC, and to look into Biden's. He didn't. He waited until 2019. Get what's going on here? Maybe it's politically motivated. Maybe he doesn't give a damn about Ukraine, which is exactly what Ambassador Sondland said. Of course, the expletive could have been a lot harsher, and I imagine it was. So it was politically motivated. He feels exonerated on July 24th, on July 25th. He does the exact thing that he has been crying foul for 2 years. Trying to work with a foreign government for political purposes. And we even know from Ambassador Sondland's testimony, even Ambassador Sondland didn't know. I don't know if the president actually wants Zelensky to actually start a real investigation or if he just wants the announcement. Now, if it's actually just the announcement, well, then you know 100% that all it was political. It had nothing to do with corruption. It was just something that Donald Trump could potentially hold over the head of Joe Biden, at least temporarily, because we still haven't had any votes yet. So we don't know if Joe Biden's going to win the nomination. But if he did, all Donald Trump would have done is say, hey, there's an investigation going on over there in Ukraine about this guy. Who knows what's going to come up, and he's just going to hang it over his head. We don't know. We don't know. But it's very political. It's extremely political. We've had the testimony from Dr. Fiona Hill, where they understood that there was a divergence between some sort of political errand versus national security policy, that she was informed by her boss, former National Security Advisor John Bolton, to go to the National Security Council's attorneys and put this in writing, that you have legitimate concerns as to what is taking place, this drug deal that is being concocted between Mick Mulvaney and Ambassador Sondland and others, that Rudy Giuliani is a hand grenade that's going to blow up everybody. Get this in writing, cover your rear end, and put my name on it too. Yeah, everything's fine. It was a perfect phone call. Absolutely nothing was done wrong. Now, if you want to believe in fairy tales, if you want to believe that the process is the whole thing with this, because guess what, folks? The Democrats offered Donald Trump in writing the opportunity to come down and testify or have his attorney down there to cross-examine witnesses. He denied on both occasions. On both occasions. He was invited by Speaker Nancy Pelosi. If you have exculpatory evidence, Mr. President, release it. Release it, and we will end all of this. He didn't. Why? Because it doesn't fit the narrative of attacking the process. Because if they partake in the process, and they're actually allowed to question witnesses, the questions that they want, well, then you can't start arguing process anymore, can you? So now you lose everything. Now you lose everything because you don't have the law on your side. You do not have the facts on your side. The last thing you have is arguing process and pounding the table. It's not good, folks. Then today you had, obviously, debate in the House of Representatives on this issue of impeachment. You had a couple Republicans come forward and compare this impeachment process to Pearl Harbor and the trial of Jesus. I don't think this is comparable to either of them. Pearl Harbor was an act of war. Pearl Harbor resulted in the death of a couple thousand men, the destruction of warships. It was an act of war. I don't think this is an act of war. I don't think 2,000 people are dead as a result of this debate, of this impeachment inquiry, of this impeachment vote. I also don't think that Donald Trump is like Jesus. Now, that's my opinion. I am not a highly religious man, and whatever you might believe of Jesus, that's your business. Whether you think he's the Son of God, whether he is God, whether he was just some sort of philosopher, I don't care. Because here's what we at least know. This is what we're at least taught about Jesus. That he practiced and preached to being humble, humility, kindness, the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have others do unto you. Turn the other cheek. Practice and preach the truth. Wisdom, peace, love, justice. Be in this world, but not of it. Be non-worldly. Anything in that list sound like Donald Trump to you? Does it? Wisdom? I don't think so. Truth? Almost everything he says is a lie. Not everything. There's a lot he does, come on. It's hard to lie all the time. But most of the things that come out of his mouth are lies or distractions, exaggerations, hyperbole, what have you. The golden rule, do to others as you would have others do unto you. I don't think so. I don't think so for a second. Turn the other cheek? No way, no how. Donald Trump does not seem to rise to the occasion. I was hoping that he would. That's why I voted for him. I thought this was all a charade. I thought this was a show. I thought this was a reality TV guy with years of messing with the media and messing with the cameras and knowing how to get publicity. I figured, okay, he pulled that off. He gets in there, sits behind the Resolute desk at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue as the President of the United States. The weight and importance of that office would weigh on him, and he would put away the antics and rise to the occasion. He has not. Humble? I don't think so. Non-worldly? No way, no how. Braggadocious, arrogant? Yes. Touting his wealth? Yes. He even tells you he's richer than you even think he is. He'll tell you that himself. More emphasis on the stock market and funny money as opposed to the soul and health of this country, of the family unit. What else do you need? What else do you need? And then this evening, he was at a rally in Michigan. And of course, the vote came through and he knew he was impeached. Didn't like it, of course. Who would? And he has to bring up a congressman who has been deceased, John Dingell, and his wife, who is now a congresswoman from Michigan, Debbie. And he basically alludes that the former and deceased congressman, John Dingell, who was the longest-serving congressman ever in the history of the United States. You can have an argument about term limits. That's not the point. Basically saying when he passed away that Donald Trump ordered flags to be made at half-staff, that Representative Dingell was allowed to lie at state in the House Rotunda, although I don't know for certain if that's Donald Trump's decision. I think that might actually go to the Speaker of the House, who at that time would have been Nancy Pelosi. But at least ordering flags to be flown at half-staff, that comes from the President of the United States. Basically saying, look, I gave this guy A-plus treatment for his funeral, for his final days above ground. A-plus treatment. I didn't have to do it, but I did. Again, he needs the constant praise. And he says, well, and then I got a phone call from his wife, Debbie Dingell. Oh, Mr. President, thank you so much. It was very kind of you to do all that. We truly appreciate that. Ba-ba-ba-ba-ba. Well, this evening, Congresswoman Debbie Dingell voted for impeachment, and Donald Trump thinks that is a knife in the back, a knife through the heart. That those two things cannot be separated. That he did somebody a favor, now you have to be loyal to him for eternity. That's childish. It's ridiculous. It's unbecoming of a president of the United States. Furthermore, he says, well, maybe John's looking down, or maybe John is looking up, meaning that John Dingell is rotting in hell. Does that sound like somebody who has it together, who's calm, cool, and collected? That everything's just going to plan? Because you got all those conspiracy theories out there that this was Donald Trump's plan all along, to be impeached and then to get some sort of huge fiasco trial where everything's just going to be laid out onto the table. Maybe it'll happen. Maybe it'll happen because we haven't gotten there yet. Just like all the trade deal with China and everybody else for that matter. Which again is, once again, folks, if you haven't caught up on that, is once again up in the air. There's still a lot of confusion around the details of phase one. Now, yeah, we're not committing the Chinese. Well, we're not committing to that type of agricultural purchase. We're not going to guarantee that. Don't be ridiculous. You're not going to compel us. You're not going to force us to buy U.S. agricultural products. We're going to look. We're going to see what products we want that offers the quality that we're looking for at the price that we want. Well, who didn't see that coming? The exact thing that I've been talking about for months here. Just a little bit of common sense. You don't need to be an economist. Conspiracy theories abound. President who has to act in such a divisive manner when the country is as divided as it is. He doesn't have to stoop to the level that the Democrats do, and he doesn't have to stoop to the level that the Democrats are either. He can rise above it. I don't excuse either of these parties. I'm sick of both of them. You think $23 trillion in debt just happened? You know, both of these parties trample on the Constitution. The only time they use it or reference the Founding Fathers is when it suits them. The Constitution and our Founding Fathers are supposed to suit us every single day. Not just when it's politically convenient. They trample on that Constitution every day until it's politically convenient for them to do so. Both parties. Both parties. Endless wars? Well, for the last 2 decades, that's been on the Republicans primarily. Trillions of dollars gone. Thousands of lives lost. Tens of thousands ruined due to injuries, mental illness, you name it. Massive amounts of suicides from veterans. Hundreds of thousands killed in foreign lands. Hundreds of thousands more, if not millions, turned into refugees. Their countries destroyed. The Patriot Act, taking away your constitutional rights. A lot of that's on the Republican side, folks. But a lot of it's hand in hand, too. And then you can go down the list, the laundry list, of things that the Democrats do that infringe on our constitutional rights, too. It's both of them. And if you don't understand this, by now, you are part of the problem. You're not a part of the solution. It's process versus facts. Yeah, 45 was impeached today, but I tell you what, the Constitution has been shredded long before. Stay diversified, stay vigilant, and stay with the Capital News. I am Alex Koritis. Godspeed.